You are now listening to the Chain Driven Podcast.
Howdy guys, this is Colton, and you're listening to Change Room Podcast, and my co-host Kieran here. How's it going?
How's it going, brother?
This is exciting. Been wanting to do this for a very long time, and there's no better person to do it with than my best friend.
Best friend. It's been looking forward to this.
Dude, so we're going to get into a lot of different shit here. Definitely working out the kinks with being not a soundproof room and shit, but, you know, we're working it out. It'll all end up working out good. Yeah, don't got headphones yet and can't afford those yet, you know, but anyway.
Working on it.
Yeah, so we're going to get into a lot of things here, mostly moto stuff. We'll do lots of different styles. Yeah, supercross, motocross, sponsors, deals, like all this different thing that involves supercross. Like, we'll try to stay away from media a lot, even though I like the media side. I like the little, you know, drama here and there, like, you know, fines and Barsha taking out Mookie in the last round of Supercross, stuff like that. And we'll get into all that in our next step. But for now, we're going to try to introduce ourselves and tell you a little bit more about ourselves. So, Kieran, why don't you start?
Hello, everybody. So I'm Kieran Cole. I've been interested in dirt bikes my entire life. I've been riding since the age of 7. I currently own one bike, and it is torn into a million pieces.
Fun story about that one. I literally, he lives in Arizona now. I live in Washington, and I drove that thing down there so we could go riding together. And then when I got there, we went riding once, and then he tore it into a million pieces.
Been sitting in the garage for... Awkward silence.
What, like a year?
I don't know. It was sitting in my dad's garage for probably 3 years, and he brought it down here, and then it sat for... Oh, I didn't sit. We rode it, and the next weekend I tore it in a million pieces, and then I didn't have the funds to fix it, so my truck broke. So it's been sitting in a closet. That's great.
Well, anyway,
I'd like to rebuild it, but I just ain't got the funds for it.
Yeah, well, who does?
Yeah. What about you, Colin? What do you ride?
Well, I ride a KTM right now. I have 350 XCF, but I'll get into my little story. I've been riding since I was the age of 5. Started out on a little P-Dub 50 in my backyard. My dad made a nice big backyard for all of us, me and my 3 siblings, to start our riding journeys on. Been riding my whole life in the same spot, in a little spot in Washington. And grew up riding all different kinds of dirt bikes, and eventually made my way making really good friends with Kieran here. And he lived in the little kind of community down the road. And we'd see each other on dirt bikes all the freaking time, and we were like, why don't we freaking hang out? Because I was always hanging out with the kid across the street, and I was like, oh shit, he's got dirt bikes, so I want to hang out with him.
Oh, that's what I was thinking. I was like, this guy's got a track beside his house. I'm gonna hang out with this kid.
Yeah. So as we grew up, we just got more and more in tune with our property here. We had a pretty decent little track out front. Pretty small, like not your normal sized kids track, pretty much. Just a few tables, little single tables, little whoop section here and there, little woods area. Lots of single track around here. We do lots of wood stuff. Not much moto. But as the years went on, me and my neighbor and then Kieran here, we all rode together all the time. And we just developed more and more trails around here. We got 21 acres, and we're butted up to a bunch more community property, and everybody lets us ride everywhere, and so we're pretty blessed out here. And then getting onto like a KX100 after my 65 and my 50s and all that stuff, we ended up building a big track, a big motocross track out behind the house, and that was a really like defining moment for all of us around here because we had all of our friends that lived down in town and our neighbors and everything, and they all wanted to come here to ride. And it was like the one thing like I remember riding it the very first day it was built, and I was on a little KX100, and I literally did one lap, probably crashed 7 or 6 times, and got back to everybody sitting there at the top, kind of like enjoying the look of it and everything. And I was like, I'm never doing this again, never going around this again, and let alone the next day I'm going around. Yeah, so ever since I was really little, my dad got us into a lot of trail riding stuff. Him and Kieran's dad here, he always hooked up and went down to Oregon to go to China Hat. Went to a lot of places around here, just private areas like Belfair and Wenatchee and Natchez, and just a lot of fun areas around here. When did a race series every year, the Norks Team Tortoise Race Series. We did it's like a round every month, and they held it in Washougal, is a big one, and like Riverdale, Hannigan, Moto West. This year they had an Eddyville round, and those are really fun. Those are pretty cool races. They're pretty much like GNCC, but like Nork style, so, and kind of works style. But they have a lap set up where it's like anywhere between 5 and 15 miles, and you do as much laps as you possibly can. And the long course is 2 hours plus 1 lap, and then the short course is 1 hour plus 1 lap. And there's all different kinds of classes for 60 plus all the way down to 15 and under, or 12 and under classes and stuff like that. So that's what I've done my whole entire life, and always gotten to get Kieran and his brother and all my brothers all into it and everything. And it's been super fun trying to travel. Like when I mentioned earlier about going to Arizona, I went down there with my dirt bikes because it just seems like such a cool place to ride and everything. After he lives there, and so we went out with another friend that lives down there that also moved from here, and we just had a freaking blast just riding everywhere. We even rode all the way out through the trails, through farmers fields, through roads, urban riding and stuff, all the way to a bar just on our dirt bikes, and no one gave a shit, and it was just like the best time ever. And I want to go back so bad. But do the big race up here called the Desert 100. That's a pretty awesome one. It's a 100-mile race in Odessa, Washington. And there's probably the biggest, I think it's literally the biggest starting line in the whole world. And it's about, this year the 100-mile race was just over 1,100 people on the starting line. And they literally start this race with a cannon, and more than 20,000 people show up to this farmer's land that's in the absolute middle of nowhere. Odessa, Washington is probably like one of the smallest rural towns you'll ever see. It's like not even a school or anything. There's just nothing out there. All of a sudden you come over this ridge in the middle of the land, and there's just seas of trailers. It's probably the coolest thing ever. I'm sure Kieran has some fun stories about that place, just all the things we do there, but we can probably get into that with a whole different episode and everything. But it's pretty badass. So anyway, I just got to doing that, the last probably 7 years, and so many cool stories, fun times, and with racing, with poker runs, with big long distance racing, and I can't wait to continue doing that for a long time, and doing it with my best friend, and hopefully we can live close together in the next few years. We're pretty young still, 22, so we got plenty of time to make it so we can stick together. But I think we're doing a pretty good job. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely rough. Our lives have taken different paths, especially being so young, but I think it's better for progression in our lives, and eventually we'll get back to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, we both have different career paths. We make good money. I think after I don't know, maybe a few years, move out to Montana or Idaho. It's a possibility.
Yeah, I think so.
Somewhere maybe closer to home.
Yeah.
It's definitely hard to go riding with your best buddy when you live 24 hours away.
Right.
But,
We'll make it work, though.
oh, yeah.
So one thing I really wanted to do in this episode is go off on a list of dirt bikes and what your biggest accomplishment on each dirt bike was.
All right. Do you want me to start?
I want you to start.
All right. So starting off, started my motorcycle career at the age of 7 on a XR50. My biggest accomplishment on that was I think I went out riding in Tahuya. I think I did about 15 miles. But that was insane. He put me on that little ass bike and dragged me out in the single track, and made me ride out there in the swamp. People that don't know about that area, but there's basically puddles that are everywhere. They're 4 feet, maybe 2 feet, almost up to 6 feet. It was like mini lakes. But I think it was my biggest accomplishment on that bike. And then I think at the age of maybe 10, I went up to a XR100. And I think I think my biggest accomplishment on that bike was taking out to Oregon. It's my first time out there. So I got my first ever sand riding, really, or desert riding, because it's nothing like back home. It's all desert and rock instead of forest. And then at about the age of, let's say, maybe 12, I got my KX100. Which I think you had your KX100 before I did.
Maybe. I'm not exactly sure, but I know this is around the time that we met. We actually met and started riding together on our KX100s.
Right around, I think, 6th grade? Right around the start of middle school, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you had the same exact bike as me.
You were dating Keely.
Yes, I was.
That was like
that's a mess. But yeah, it was great. I love that bike. I think that was the only bike I've ever been faster than you. I remember I'd go to your track and whoop your ass on your own track, and you would admit it, but I did.
Oh well, you
I think I jumped damn near every single jump on that track.
Yeah,
and then. Let's see, I rode that. What's that?
I said that was fun.
Yeah, it was fun. I loved that bike. It was awesome. And then it was about time to move up. So at the age of 14, I got my KDX 200. And I really wanted a race bike. But my dad insisted that this was the best bike I'd ever buy. So we went and picked it up. This thing was owned by a lady that had ridden it twice. Sat in the garage from 2004 up to 2014. So it sat for 10 years before I got my dirty hands on it.
Jeez.
And I've owned that bike ever since. I couldn't tell you the amount of miles on it. I think the amount of abuse it's gone through is insane. But it's got to be the best, most reliable bike on planet Earth. I've done one top end on it. What's that?
I gotta agree.
I mean, I did one top end on it, and that was in 2016. I did. The only thing bad on it is the forks, because the forks on that bike are flipped, so the wiper seals are aimed to the dirt. So it likes to pick up dirt and then jam it up through the wiper seals and blow the wiper seals. But aside from that, that bike is insane. I couldn't even tell you my most favorite moment on the bike. It'll go up anything. It's got plenty of power. I've ridden it in the Desert 100. I've raced motocross with it. Not actual race, but I've done desert riding, jumping off rocks, everything. The bike's been insane. And then I moved off to college. So the bike sat in my dad's garage for about 3 years until buddy Colton here brought it down to Arizona for me. And then I decided to rip it up into a million pieces. And then ever since then, it's been sitting in the garage for probably just over a year and a half or so. Maybe a little bit longer. And I've been trying to get a new bike, but the funds are a little short.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at getting a new KX 250X.
That'd be pretty badass.
Yeah. I mean, I love the KTM 300 is awesome. I think I'd like to get that the following year.
Did you see the new SX?
I did not see the new SX.
There is.
Oh, wait, maybe I did.
2023, they're releasing a 300 SX. And Jeff Walker did a video on it, and it's pretty badass.
I would probably shit my pants on that thing.
Yeah, it's probably killer, and it would kill me because I like to get arm pumped really fast, and I just blow my hands off bikes and go tumbling in the dirt. But yeah, I was gonna say when you.
I don't know. It'd be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I know, right? Because that bike, I mean, the 250 already has an insane amount of power, and they're gonna build, a race version of the 300. Like my brother and my dad both have the XCs, and they're pretty awesome. They will do anything. They go up anything. They just have so much torque. It's unbelievable. And to imagine,
they have really good lug power too.
Oh yeah, dude, the lug power is insane. And so all I can imagine is that bike with a super beefy top end to get in that power band really fast. It sounds crazy to me because that bike is already like just really fast, really nimble.
It's like it's on crack.
Dude, I know. And so I can't even imagine an SX. It's got to be so freaking cool.
I imagine. It'll be very interesting. A lot of companies are changing it up this 2023 season.
Yeah.
I mean, seriously. I just saw Kawasaki is now going to a dual injection bike. They have 2 injectors.
Really?
So it'll be interesting.
I want to learn
more to come on that in following podcasts.
Yeah.
All right, Colton.
I also wanted to say, do you ever watch those videos on Carson Brown riding his 200?
Yes, I do.
Yeah. If you guys haven't,
rides it like it's a 250.
Yeah. If you guys haven't checked out Carson Brown and his pit bike riding, you need to, because it's probably one of the coolest things ever. And that guy can absolutely rail any bike on this planet and act like it's a 250F race bike.
Carson is a very interesting specimen. He's from Washington. He's a couple towns away from our hometown. Yeah. His father, I believe, is the owner of BBR.
Yeah, his grandpa is. Or it's his grandpa, uncle and stuff, but it's like a family business.
And he had his first Supercross season this last season.
In 20.
He did pretty good. He's riding for
his first season was in
KTM
20.
AEO.
Yeah. He was on the 125 in 21, I think. It was the 125, right? Yeah. And then he did the Husqvarna GMC in 2020. But this last year, he was on the AEO KTM team because he was doing a fill-in. I forget who for. But the way he finished out this season for the West Coast was unbelievable. For privateer, practically filling in for somebody, getting top 10 practically every race, just blows my mind. That kid's so badass.
That's great. And he's insanely fast on any bike he rides.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It'd be so cool to have him on.
See him hitting. Yeah. Anyways, Colton, enough about that. We'll get back at that in some future podcasts. Maybe hopefully we'll get on.
Hopefully.
But let's move on to you. Let's talk about your bikes.
Start off mine at the age of 5. I started off with a good old PETA 50, like I said. And my most memorable moment on that guy was probably just doing lap after lap after lap on our little grass field out here that we have, this little yard. And can't tell you how many times I just wanted to push it, and I'd just slide out, smack the ground. And but I'd always get up again, and I'd always get back on for some reason, because I was just watching my dad's old VHS videos of him ripping quads and dirt bikes, and I always wanted to be like Dad, and he always had a dual sport, and he's always ripping around on motorcycles, so I always had some incentive, and I always had this drive to want to do it, so I just remember just ripping that little PETA 50 running around. And then my next one was KTM 50, the trail version of the KTM 50. I had like the forget what it was, like what the acronyms are.
Like a WR?
No, it was like the little tiny. I don't remember. That's like the trail version.
Wait, was it a Yamaha?
No, it was a KTM.
Oh, KTM.
Yeah. So I had that for, I don't even remember really riding that thing. I didn't even have it for that long. I practically like hopped on that thing, rode it for, I bet you it wasn't even a year. I bet you it was earlier. Like, I bet you it was only like 8 or 9 months that I rode that bike. Then I just jumped on the 65, KTM 65. And so I don't really have a good memory of that KTM 50. But I do remember a great one on the 65. We did the Kirkaselli ride thing. It was like a charity thing. I was like 7, I want to say 7 or 8. And my dad took me out to Tainham, up in eastern Washington over there. And it ended up being like a 42-mile ride on a little 65. And I was hitting ruts deeper than my wheels and going over all these rock sections and stuff, crashing all over the place. Everybody's waiting on me. You know, it took me like 5 or 6 hours to do this 42-mile ride. But, you know, I did it, and I still remember to this day, like, climbing up this little ravine thing, and my friend Jabe is waiting there at the top, like, cheering me on or whatever, going up, because he's on a bigger bike than I am. He's a little older than me. But still remember that, and I still remember getting to the end and having, like, a burger and stuff that they had set up. And then I remember sleeping all the way home. My dad taking photos of me and stuff, so that was that. And then that's when I moved up to the KX100. And the most memorable or accomplishing thing on that guy wasn't shit. I had the worst luck with that KX100. I almost never got to ride it because I had so many issues with that. I blew it up myself.
How many times did you blow that bike up?
3 times. I blew it up 3 times.
That's ridiculous.
So the third time actually wasn't a blow up. It was something with the flywheel that I fixed later. But first time we were at the Shelton Poker Run, and we're heading up these, like, we get off this trail here and we're going up this windy road to get into another trail, and I'm in front of my family and whatnot, so I'm just, taking off on this road. Sorry. And heading up this road, and I'm like fourth gear tap, just like having a blast, just one, and then it just bogs and dies like immediately, and my back tire locks up. It throws me over the front of the bars. I'm like hanging on for dear life, and I skid to a stop, and it's just like seized, done. And I was like, well, it is what it is, I guess. I mean, I can't really fix it. I'm like, 11, 12 at the time, so it's not like, the worst thing ever for me. But my dad ends up fixing it in time for the next Norks race, which is at Hannigan. And it just happened to be an absolute mudder. It was just so muddy, dude. It was like you spent probably 20, 30 minutes just doing one lap because of how freaking muddy it was, just bogging around people, just freaking yanking the throttle through anything. You couldn't even go half the track. There's some bottlenecks that were so congested. You just wait there for 5 minutes for people to like get through it. And it was running a little rich. My dad didn't have the carb totally dialed in. And this is one of my most memorable things ever because I was wearing a GoPro on my chest. And I was coming out of the woods and going around a corner, and it was just so muddy. I was just kind of like, wee, like high RPM, trying to get out of this muddy corner. And as soon as I come out from around it, it just locks up again, just seized right there. And I'm like trying to kick it, back tires locked up. It doesn't sound, there's no compression or anything. I'm all screwed. And I remember sitting there, and I'm getting all frustrated, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I remember I have a GoPro on my chest. I'm like 12, 13 at this time. And my parents were pretty big with the potty mouth stuff. And I remember looking down at the GoPro, and I was like, oh shit, and turned off the GoPro. I even said, oh shit, before I turned it off. I was that much of a freaking stupid. And ended up having a sweep rider coming around. He threw the bike on the back of the quad, took me all the way back to our campsite, and I'm all frustrated, threw my helmet on the ground, whatever. Like, pissed off, my bike blew up, didn't finish the race. I have the worst luck at Hannigan. Hannigan's the worst for me. I've had so many issues there. I forgot one thing on my 65 there. I went over a big table, and I think my sister had messed. She was a little toddler, and I think she had messed with my seat pin, because back in those days on those 65s, there was no screws or anything holding the seats down, and it was just a little pin on the top of the seat. You just pulled the lever up and twisted it, and the seat would come off. And so I'm out there riding around on the track, and I go over this tabletop, and my seat I'm standing up, so my seat comes up, hits me in the butt, and flies out from behind me. And so I land, got no seat, and I'm trying to do the rest of this lap or whatever, and I'm in the woods, and I'm struggling so hard because I'm a little, and I'm trying to sit down, and I have no seat, and I was like freaking crying. Guy came up behind me with my seat in the back and put it on, whatever, finished the race. Anyway, yeah, I'm like going back to the KX100. I'm like telling my parents, like, oh, I didn't start the GoPro. Like, I didn't do anything with the GoPro. It's no big deal. It's just like, you don't need to watch. And they got all suspicious, like, oh, why are you trying to hide the GoPro, stuff like that. And so they end up watching the video. They don't get me in trouble or anything, but they laugh about it. And so it's always a big joke.
It's funny.
It's pretty funny that, I was mad, but whatever. So that's that. And then at the Desert 100, the next, got it fixed again. Went to the Desert 100, and my cousin was actually riding. It wasn't even me. And flywheel came off, broke some shit inside. Little did we know that was the issue, but we just assumed it was a motor issue and everything. And then it sat in our garage for like the last 4 years. And then my wife, like, I'm trying to get her to ride with me a bunch. And so I went down there and I was like breaking it open to check it out, and the flywheel just came off. And I was like, what the shit? And I just put the flywheel back on, Loctite that bitch on, and that thing runs great now, dude. I just got a little carb issue going on. But...
Well, you brought it all the way down here and made it quarter mile before it fell off.
Yeah, so I had to Loctite it after it fell off again. But it worked out. It worked out. It runs good here now and everything. But yeah.
It's just an old bike.
Yeah.
What do you expect?
Anyway.
Damn near every single kid in your family's ridden
I
that.
know.
And every single one of your family friends.
Yeah, and my brother's blown it up, and, that thing's gone through quite a bit of... I think we have 2 extra motors for that thing that are blown in our garage right now.
Yeah.
Just sitting there because nothing else to do with them. But anyway, after that KX100, I moved up to a YZ250F 09, and that was a blast. I did my first Desert 100 race on that bike. Did the 50 miler, and then the next year I did the 100 miler, and then I did that twice, and I rode a bunch with Kieran there at the Desert 100, did a lot of poker run. I'm not sure if we ever raced together. Did we ever race together?
I have never been in an actual race.
At the Desert 100?
Oh, the Desert 100?
Yeah.
Yes, we had raced together.
Yeah.
I have done the 50 multiple times. It's funny. My bike makes it 45 miles, and it's a 50-mile loop. So right at the end of the 5 mile, shit dies. Every time.
Well,
I think the last time...
Before I got a bigger tank, I always had to pack like a big Gatorade bottle of fuel.
Yeah. That's what I do. I'd strap 1-quart oil jugs and fill them up with fuel. Just strap them down to the bike.
Yeah.
Duct tape them.
But...
Yeah, I think... How many times have you done that race?
This last year was my 5th time, I think.
5th time?
Yeah.
I think I've done it maybe 3. I think, or maybe 4.
Yeah, I tried to get you
I did
back
the
for this year,
50s. Yeah. But I've done the 50 multiple times. That is a hard-ass race.
Yeah, it is. You think
But
it's like desert
the last time I
Baja
did
stuff,
it-
like really flat, really fast. It's nothing like that,
No.
dude. It's like everybody thinks that until they go and do it, and it's like super complicated rock sections, hill climbs, big river sections, stuff like
Yeah.
that. It's gnarly.
Well, it's insane. You have hundreds of people trying to get up the same hill climb. It is just hectic.
Yeah.
And you have pro riders that are lapping you, passing you, doing 60 through the bushes. It's just insane.
Yeah.
And the last time I rode it, I attempted to do the 100 mile. I made it about 25 miles in, and a guy... It's a hard race. Especially when it doesn't rain. It is so dusty. And this guy was right in front of me, hit a pothole, went over the bars, sent this silky sand everywhere in the air. I couldn't see anything. I was doing probably 35.
Yeah.
And I smoked him. I got launched over the bars, and then I was laying in the path. I mean, there's hundreds of riders going by. You're going to get hit if you're in the way. So I ended up getting my head run over, and I ended up with a concussion.
Jesus. I remember.
Yeah, it was
that,
terrible.
too.
I sat there for probably 45 minutes on the side of the trail, tried to get back up, started going again, and I putted the rest of the way because there's no side roads or any way to get back. You have to finish the race.
Yeah,
It was miserable.
the best I've ever gotten in the 100 is like 83rd out of 1,000 or something. And
Yeah, that's good.
this year I was really pushing for that top 50. I was like, I wanted to get it so bad. And I had a really good start, surprisingly. I was in the top 100 easy in the start. And heading out, and it's really hard to get good starts out there with so many people. You're in front of sage bushes. I mean, they literally
Well, it's
line you up just,
it's a mile long.
yeah, they line you up in the middle of nowhere. Like, you can literally be lined up in front of a cliff. Like, you just have to go around.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. And
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the world's longest motorcycle starting
I
line.
think so too.
'Cause
I
it
mean, that's what
has-
YouTube says, but I mean, who knows? But
I don't know about these past few years, but they used to run 2 heats, and each one was about a mile long.
yeah,
And they funnel, like after, I think it's just under a mile, they funnel
through like a
to a
cattle
tight
gate.
little section.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's like a cattle guard. And that
the
first
amount of dust is just,
5 minutes of that race it's deadly. There's many people that get medevac within the first 5
it's a
minutes.
serious war zone, dude. You're
It's-
watching people just drop
It is
left
ridiculous.
and right. I watched 3 people just
And it's
ram
like
into each other in this last one.
it's fun. It's probably the most fun racing you could ever do. But
For sure.
it comes with a price. Like, you got to go to work on Monday,
Yeah,
you know. And at a certain point, a certain age, you're like, is it really worth it to be even the top 80? Like,
it is
It's
for me.
just-
'Cause right now, dude, I was
That-
looking going ham. I didn't care, dude. I
well,
wanted
I'm just saying, like, it's fun. Your adrenaline starts going,
Yeah.
and you're like, I'm gonna fucking do this. But realistically, like, the only thing you got to prove is a scoreboard. You know?
Yeah,
And is it worth fucking dying or taking a handlebar to the ribs or
yeah,
fucking plowing into rocks or bikes? It's just insane.
yeah.
But we'll cover this in a later pod.
Yeah, we can do that. That'll work better. I mean, there's so much to talk about with that race that,
Oh, it was so much to talk about.
yeah, it's ridiculous.
But let's move on to your next bike.
So, right after my 250F, I decided to get a YZ250 two-stroke. And,
2-stroker.
yeah, and
That thing was a devil.
it was, dude. That thing was gnarly. It did not like me. I'll just say that. The bike's amazing. There's no foul to the bike. I mean, that bike is just, it's one of the coolest bikes ever. It's reliable. It runs amazing. Like, always started first kick. Always ran amazing. And I never really had any issues with it other than one time I actually blew it up. I blew the bottom end of the case out.
I was
And-
going to say, if you didn't say that was your favorite moment with the bike, I was going to say that was my favorite moment with your bike.
Well, yeah, because I was doing a log section after a rock section, and I'm hopping over this log, and the bike just shuts off, and I lay down on the log, and I crash, and like go over my head and everything, and I was like, shit, that was weird. And I get back on, I go to pick up my bike, and I'm like trying to start it, and it's being funny, and
It's not going anywhere.
yeah, it's like not wanting to do anything, and I look down, and my counter sprocket, it has my chain all fuck jumbled up in the counter sprocket, and I'm like, holy shit, my chain just like broke and shoved up in the counter sprocket and stuff. So I like push it back to my house because I'm right down the road, and I'm like trying to wash it to see what I can do to it, and I lean it over, and there's a massive, like 2 massive holes in the bottom of the case. I'm like, well, that fucking sucks. I can't deal with that no more. I got it. I washed it up and everything, and then
Yeah.
luckily we have a really good friend who owns Colchin Foundation Drilling, Cody, and his son is Loretta's kid, like all fast, super fast. We'll get into that later, but his mechanic, he works for him full time. That's all he does is just work on dirt bikes, and so he took all of our shit. We got paid for all the parts and everything. He's pretty cheap labor because he's a buddy and all that. So got it fixed that way, which is super nice. But even after that rebuild, brand new, I mean, it was such a nice bike. It was always super reliable. That was probably my favorite moment on it, was that time. But just because it was, hectic and whatnot, I didn't do much with that bike because, I mean, one time I was at Riverdale and I was doing lap after lap. I had lots of arm pump and everything, and I was warming up to this bigger double that was on the track, and this one lap I was like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it, and sending around this corner, sent the double. As soon as I sent the double, my throttle hand booted off the handlebar, just ripped right off. And I was like, well, that's not good. My bike's taking off from under me. So that thing is so snappy, it just wanted to just go. Like, it didn't really care who was on it, what was going on. It just wanted to freaking go. And so it launched out from under me. I'm in like 20 feet in the air. Come down on my knees, smack my face on the ground. That was a really fun one. That was like one of those where I'm like, I'm not really down with this bike no more. It kind of wants to kill me all the time. Just like that power is just crazy. And to tell you that I went from that bike, YZ252 stroke, to a 2018 KTM 350 XCF, and yes, it has 100 more cc's, but the amount of power delivery ratio, the difference, that 350 sends power so smoothly and so easily, dude. It takes you through it so nicely, and it's so easy to ride. I mean, it's still really fast. You gotta be careful because especially I get really bad arm pump, like I said, and mobbing down hills and stuff, rock hills through the speed whoops and breaking bumps, all the good stuff. And sometimes I get a little sketchy. Sometimes I'll go over the bars or whatever, set it down. But you stay loose on the bike, keep your suspension a little soft for the braking bumps and everything, for the motos or the Nork stuff, and you'll fly right through it. It's not too bad. So that bike is just so awesome. It's treated me so well. I'm really just deciding whether to just hold on to it, like rebuild it later this year, hold on to it, or I really, really want a YZ250 XCF or XF, and just sounds so badass. I was gonna get one. I had one on hold and everything, and then had a few things go on and with vehicles and all this stuff, and ended up not being able to get it. So one of my best friends was looking for one also, and I was like, dude, go pick up mine. And he ran down there, picked up the bike that I was gonna get, and he says he had my bike, my exact bike. He also had the KTM 250 XC, and he thinks that YZ250 XF is the best out of all of them. He absolutely loves it. Yes, there's a little less power than that 350, but it still delivers like a freaking hammer. And even for what the type of racing that we do, we don't need it cranked on a motocross track all the time. And so we just need it through the woods. We need it through tight stuff. We need it through single track. We need it on the track. We need it through sand. We need it through light dirt. We need it through mud. And he says, and I've even ridden it too, and I think sweet. I haven't ridden it really much at all, but that bike is so badass, and it just makes me want one more, even more, every time that I hear about it and see him ride it. He races the pro class at these Norks races, and he does really freaking good, and those guys are on 450s and stuff, and he's hanging in there, top 5 easy on that 250, and I just want one so bad. I think I want to go Blue Crew again because I love Yamahas, and the only two I'd get is Yamaha or KTM, so I mean, that's probably what my plan is for my next bike, but I don't know about a favorite or most memorable moment on my 350 right now. I'm still like developing those moments. Like One of them was just yesterday, actually. We raced at Eddyville, Goldendale, and me and my brother teamed raced the long course, and we ended up getting third. He got a really good second place start, and it was super hard pack and slick there. It was super dry, very, very dusty. For some reason, the track was just literally like slick rock. The whole track was. And so we were jumping in and off the track, going into the sand, going into trails everywhere. So what he did going up the hill around like the third corner was he came over this little ridge, and it was like a downward turn to the left, and just slid out instantly. He was second place, went all the way back to last. And I was sitting there watching it off the start. I was like, no. It was like such a bummer because he got such a good start. These are dead engine flag starts, so it's really hard to get a good start. You're not sitting there sitting on the rev, waiting for a gate. You got a dead engine start and everything. Mm-hmm. So I suck at starts. My four-stroke doesn't like to start that fast. So his 300 XC, it was super awesome. That thing freaking kicks going really fast, takes off, so much torque. And so heading out, he took off, was waiting for him in the pits, ended up going, and we caught ourselves back up all the way to third. Let's finish the race there. And that was super fun. I loved that place. It just gave me so much more confidence on my bike, I think, because just the amount of arm pump I was getting was nowhere near like what I usually get. And it just felt really good, and so that was like one of the most memorable times on that bike.
Very nice. I love that bike.
Yeah,
that bike is so much fun. It's easy to ride. It's just a world of a difference than any other bike that I've ridden.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
I mean, especially first getting on it, being introduced to a bike having traction control on it. I was like, there's no way this fucking works.
It's so cool.
And you turn that traction control on, the thing fucking billy goats up fucking anything.
That's true. It does, honestly.
It is ridiculous.
Weird.
You're like, how is this heavy-ass bike doing all of this?
Yeah,
and it just does it.
It actually works really well. Like, the place I noticed it the most was in Moab, Utah. Went out there, and it was like 70-degree day. It was hot, and we take out on this trail, and we ended up getting into freaking snow. And it was a slick rock, and we were in normal riding gear. We were in snow. We're freezing our asses off. Throw this traction control on, and I'm heading up this slick rock sandstone stuff, and my brother's in front of me, and Kieran's brother's in front of me, and he's sliding out everywhere, can't keep it under control, and my bike is just kicking up over these things like nothing. And I was like, how is this thing doing this? That was like brand new to me at the time, and I didn't really understand the traction control, but it actually blew my mind how well it does in that kind of situation.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah.
It's like putting four-wheel drive on.
Yeah, seriously, dude. It blew my mind, dude, and it keeps blowing my mind all the time, like even through this slick stuff at this last race where my brother slid out. That those 300s don't really come with that traction control issue. So
yeah,
even through all this slick stuff, like when I hammer it going up these hills and it's slick rock, this thing catches so nicely and will just sink and take off at the right speed, and just it's part of the reason why it's so smooth and throughout the power and everything. So yeah.
It's amazingly balanced bike.
Yeah, it's pretty badass. So,
and
what were you gonna say?
I don't know. I imagine you have a great time on the YZ when you get one, but I'm interested to see how, in comparison, you like it. I mean, Jay thinks it's the most amazing bike he's ever ridden. He's on many KTMs, Husqvarnas, which are top tier bikes. And Yamaha's always been good. They've always had reliable bikes. They've always had great stock suspension. But for someone that's been riding KTM for so long, to be able to say that this little Yamaha 250 is 1,000 times better makes it for interesting, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like mostly the reason I want to do this switch is maybe that 100 cc's might help out my arm pump a little bit, I think. And I struggle with
Yeah.
it a lot. I'll do as much riding as I can with working and everything, but I'll get into these long endurance races and I can't hold on for my life. And I have to slow down because I'm going to crash. I'm going to go over the bars. I'm going to do all this different stuff. My hand's breaking off the handlebars. And I think this 100 cc's lower, after doing as much riding as I've done on my 350 and being able to get better on it and more controllable, it's still at times a little pretty sketchy going down hills and accidentally hitting that throttle. That throttle response
Yeah.
on those bikes are crazy. I can't tell you how easy it is to freaking loop out because of how much like throttle I could just give it and it just goes so fast. So that 100 cc's less, I think, will benefit me a lot, and I think I can control it a little easier with like having the 350 for so long. And I think in the long run, I'd be faster, so I can control that bike for longer. That's probably my main reason.
Mm-hmm.
So
Now,
that's why I want you to
you
get like
had
Kawasaki that's similar to that, just the cross country.
yes, I would like to see the comparison.
Yeah, it would be really
between those
fun
two
to just
bikes.
like demo our bikes together.
Yeah. Now, you had flex bars before previously on bikes.
Yeah.
Did that ever help with arm pump?
Not really, because there's still arm pump is kind of a personal issue. I think.
Well, it's kind of just over tightening your arms,
Yeah,
straining
It's
them.
it's literally a personal issue. It's not really anything to do with the bike. It's really to do with your grip, your stance, your form. Like I have to tell myself over and over and over and over during races to squeeze the tank with my knees because that gives me so much less pressure on my hands. It amazes me the amount of like pressure that I have on my hands, and then I'll like, oh, squeeze the tank, like remind myself, and I'll sit there and squeeze the tank with my knees, and my hands are instantly fine. It blows. It's like,
Yeah.
why don't I just drill this in my brain? I mean, I'm trying, but that's just the way it works. So I really think it's just a personal issue. I mean, you just need to ride more, you need to train more. I mean, I can always, need to ride more, train more, and everything. It's just the way it is. But I think I'll always get arm pump and everything. So it's not like something I'm gonna try to like, fix. So I just need to ride more. And I think the more times I ride during the week, the better it is for those longer races. And that's just the best way to fix it. I think it's the flex bars did really freaking good with all those braking bumps and those sand whoops and that stuff, like with the Desert 100, because I had
Yeah.
it on my 250F, and I thought they were awesome. They were pretty badass bars. But after getting this 350, I've been kind of balling on a budget, and those flex bars are not cheap.
No,
They're
no
like a
doubt.
good $450 for a pair of bars.
Wow.
So I've been,
So that's weird.
yeah,
I never really dealt with arm pump,
well, you're a lucky man.
but thinking of it is, I've ridden this KDX 200 so long. The bike, if you look at the frame, it's almost like a V, how the frame's set up. So like my feet are so much lower than, let's say, your bike. So from the bottom of your feet to the top of your seat yours is probably a quarter shorter than mine is. So the gripping of the legs has always been drilled in my brain because of that bike.
Yeah.
Because there's so much to grab onto.
Which I've ridden that
So I've never
bike
had
too,
an issue
and
with
I
it.
totally agree. I mean, that bike it's made for that kind of stuff. Like, it kind of
Oh, yeah.
forces you to do it, and it's so easy.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I've noticed that. Like, I'll hop on your bike or Jabe's bike, and I notice it. Like, wow, like my feet are so high up. Like, I can't grip the friggin' bike.
Yeah.
Like, I have to be sitting down to grip it.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, I can see how that would mess your arms up pretty good.
Yep. So, kind of getting to the point where I think we're gonna wrap up this first episode. And we've had
Wrap
some,
up this pod.
yeah, dude. We've had some like kinks here and there. We got some things to work out, things to fix.
Yeah, this is our first pod, man.
Yeah, it's always
We'll
gonna be
get it
that
all
way
done.
first go around. But
Oh yeah.
thank you for
Well-
wanting to do this as much as I do, and helping
Oh, of
me
course.
get this, going, because I think it can turn into something really fun. And I'm really I've always wanted to do it. I mean, I listen to Pulp and Mix, all the Whiskey Throttle Show, all the big Gypsy Tales, listen to all the big ones, and just makes me want one more and more and more every time I listen to their episodes. And luckily enough, my best friend here was mentioning it to me. I was like, oh, I just started a podcast. Like, dude, I was thinking the same thing. Like, kind of that, I was thinking the same mindset day. I was like, we were talking on the phone on our way, we're both driving home from work, and we're talking about this thing. We're like, we need to do this. So we've been talking about this for the last, 2 months, just trying to get everything dialed. But
Yeah.
I'm glad we got this first one underway. I'm glad we almost made an hour on the first episode.
Yeah. We're at 50 minutes so far.
Dude, that's crazy.
Plus the extra little bit we messed up in the beginning.
Yeah. So
But yeah, it's been
probably
great.
more than an hour. That blows my mind that it goes back.
I am very grateful for you. You're my best friend, and I'm glad you're doing this with me.
Yeah.
I love this.
Same here, dude.
It's fun, and I can't wait to see where this goes in the future.
Yeah, super stoked. So, try to find us.
Yeah, if you guys,
Try to find us anywhere.
If you guys like
TikTok, YouTube, Instagram. It's all going to be Chain Driven Motopod. And I think you can probably reach.
we should have all that up soon.
Yeah, Apple Podcasts, everywhere. But obviously, probably not going to get much exposure on Anchor or wherever we're on right now. But, we'll try to reach out.
We'll try our best.
Yeah, we'll try our best to get this thing going. So I'm excited.
We try to give you guys a little taste of what we have to talk about. We could talk about everything for days. We got tons of stories.
Yeah.
And lots to talk about, and I'm very excited.
Yeah, me too.
All right.
So,
Thank you, everyone, for listening.
yeah.
The first episode is a wrap.
Peace out.